You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back, ready to rock out once again on everyone's favorite. I know it's my favorite. Hopefully it's your favorite. Bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yes, it is time for the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com. Hope you're having a good trading week out there. A lot to unpack. Should be a fun show today. Remember, if you want more show, you want to come back for awesome pro Q&As and other fun stuff like we had hitting the feed this week. You want to come back after Vol Views for a little bit of options oddities action. You want to get access to giveaways, early access to some great content, as well as, of course, live streams, all sorts of fun. Excuse me. Whew, the voice still hasn't recovered. I'll pop a lozenge here for the rest of the show. All sorts of fun. You know, there's only one place to go. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go as we go around the horn. See who's joining us on the old program today. First, let's go out to the home of flannel, known as Maine, where we are joined once again by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, welcome back to the show, sir.
It is a pleasure to be here. It is actually sunny and 70 degrees in Maine.
Perfect day to rock some heavy flannel, then.
Actually, that's what I'm wearing. Because it's getting chilly.
Yes, the flannel. The flannel always in season in Maine. As we keep on rolling out to the hinterlands of Chicago, I don't think it's really flannel country, but I guess we'll find out as we are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. I guess if you're hanging out on those St. Charles fairgrounds, then maybe you're rocking some flannel. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, is it flannel country out by you, sir?
No, not really. I would say we're more of a business casual type of place here in St. Charles.
Ooh, a little BC out there in St. Charles. Again, unless you're hanging out in the Rabbit Building at the fairgrounds, and I've been there once or twice. As we keep on rolling.
Who hasn't?
Who hasn't hung out at the old Kane County Fairgrounds? Just the mecca for all things awesome. I'd say like 3 times a year. And then let's go around the horn to, I believe he's joining us from the hallowed halls of Cboe East, but you never know. He could be in the Great White North again. He could be down the road at a coffee shop near you, listeners. Let's find out. He is the Flowmaster himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from Cboe. Mr. Flowmaster, welcome back to the show. Where are you beaming in from today?
I am in Cboe's New York offices downtown in Manhattan. It's a beautiful day in New York. It really feels like fall, which is probably a trick because I heard there's a heat wave coming. But it's a beautiful day here, and yeah, markets are active, and happy to get into it.
All right, then, listeners. The man said it. Let's do it. It is time to get into it. It is time for the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down what the heck is trading. And, surprise, surprise, after just a long historic streak of wins out there in the broad market, S&P blowing past 5,600, just been pretty much in nonstop foot on the accelerator, rally ho mode ever since pretty much the big sell-off back on quote-unquote Black Monday of August 5th. They've just been pumping the gas to high heaven out there. Finally taking a break, finally taking a respite out there today. No surprise, it is August 22nd after all. Just a horrible day. Nothing good happened on this day out there, listeners, at all. Just a terrible day for all and sundry out there as we keep on rolling. Let's see how horrible it is out there, shall we? S&P off, closing in on 0.2% right now. The Dow off about 0.5%. And the NASDAQ taking the bit in its teeth off a little over 1, about 1.05%. Small caps kind of content to just drift in there somewhere in the middle, also off about 0.2% as well. And our old pal VIX Cash kind of been vacillating around a lot today. It looked like they were going to start coming for vol and VIX again because not that long ago got down to right about a 16 handle. And then we saw the sell-off kind of kick in again, and we saw VIX Cash rally up to around 1760 or so, and then coming back in. It seemed like the vol crush was in right before showtime, got down to about 16.75, and now we're right back up again. Threatening 17.5 right now, about 1740 in the VIX Cash. That was quite the turnaround. We were just 16.75, a minute or two before showtime. So that puts us up actually about 2 2/3 points from where we were on the Monday show. So a little bit of vol kicking back in. Did you miss it? Were you sad after VIX Cash starting to languish in the mid-teens? Were you saying, I need myself an upper teens, if not, dare I say it, a 20 in VIX land again? And all this froth means VVIX coming back to life as well. VVIX at about a 110, up 9 points from where it was this time on the Monday show. So a lot to unpack. Well, let's go around the horn the opposite of the way we started. Let's go out to the hallowed halls of Cboe East first. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, a lot of green on the screens pretty much until today. Now we're finally seeing some red. What is catching your eye out there, sir?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm really not a believer in kind of technical analysis and some of to me it's kind of like mumbo jumbo. However, when you look at kind of, we got right back to about where we were before, we kind of started that sell-off into the end of July. So it almost feels like we kind of hit some resistance. But I'm looking at kind of how the market's performed since that. What are we calling it? A flash crash, Tokyo drift or something?
It's Black Monday Redux, sir. I'm not sure if you got the memo.
Oh, I didn't. But, you look at how the markets behaved, and we had like 9 straight up days in a row for SPX. And so we're seeing a sell off, and a little bit of boost to VIX and VVIX, like you said. But, I think this is kind of like, this is just a little bit of a retracement. It was really interesting. There was definitely some very brief moments of fear, especially on that Monday morning. I was just talking to a bank this morning about it, and how the markets behaved. I actually was digging into some quote width in that overnight session, just to kind of see what was going on. And the typical global trading hours are provided by Cboe for SPX and SX and XSP, which is just the mini SPX, and for VIX. And on a kind of a normal quiet day, the average bid offer out there in those quotes, even overnight, is less than 50 cents wide on an option. And I was pulling up quotes that were easily $8-9 wide. In kind of the panic that happened. But as we all know, most of that panic seemed to be kind of done by the time the market opened on Monday. So I just think, we're into a little bit of a pullback after a really amazing rebound, actually, given what quickly happened on that at the beginning of August. And, we're kind of, VIX is back into, a little bit higher, but still it's not back to that 20 plus range, which I did predict famously. But I just think we're going to be bouncing around here, and 0.5%, even with 75, 80 basis point moves, it's going to keep us on our toes.
$9 wide. Don't we all wish we could make markets like that, Mister? I think we'd all still be down there with our badges if we were slinging options $9 wide, listeners. The good old days as we keep on rolling. Mr. Uncle Mike wouldn't be down there. He wasn't slinging no $9 wide options, but nonetheless, we like him, even though he's beaming in, I do believe, today from the aforementioned rabbit building out there on the St. Charles Fairground. I'm not sure how the connectivity is out there. Let's find out. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what's cooking on the rabbit field? And what's catching your eye out there in the first non-Uncle Mike day that I can remember in recorded history?
Exactly. Well, I mean, we got a crowd of probably about it's a smaller crowd today. We only have about 8,000 to 9,000 here today for the live stream of the show, because typically we get about 14,000 to 15,000. But there's more rumors about you and the things you were saying about our town. So the town's kind of mad at you again, Mark.
Bring it, St.
I'll do
Charles.
what I can to.
I'm still waiting for my check from Skippy, so bring it.
Yeah. So yeah. Skippy's a whole different thing altogether, but there's scandals that go on with that thing that you had started as well. But nonetheless, we're all happy to be here. Everyone's excited. It's the option block. What's there not to be excited about on Thursday? So yeah, I'm with the Flowmaster in that when you have a run like what we had since the pullback, we've literally gone up almost 10% from the very low of the market on that morning. And so when that happens, a pullback of 0.5% really isn't anything that's too big of a deal, in my opinion. So can't say it's that I'm panicking, to say the least. The thing that I am watching, though, is that we are also having a pullback in bonds. And we're down roughly 0.5%. Just looking at IEF, the 7 to 10 year U.S. Treasury, we're down roughly 0.5% there. And we're also down in both silver and gold. Nothing major, just a little bit over 1% in gold and a little bit over 1.5% in silver. And so where on earth is the money going? Well, it'll be interesting to see where it appears in the next few days, because it's not going into a mattress, that's for sure. But it'll be interesting to see if we do have some type of a buying opportunity in one of those three asset classes, stocks, bonds, or commodities. Now, in terms of some individual names, the one that's really lighting up my tape today is Microsoft. That's down over 1.7%, down over $7 on the day. That's probably the biggest thing of all the stocks that I follow closely that's really taking it on the chin, so to speak. Some other stocks that I watch that are down, we're seeing NVIDIA down over 2% on the day. That's not that much for NVIDIA. Tesla down over 3% on the day. Facebook down 1.5% on the day. So we're getting some down things, or we're getting some down stocks, but it's nothing that's really a major broad-based sell-off by any means. And so I think this is just a one-day pullback type of thing for now. That could change, of course, if all of a sudden we're hitting circuit breakers and everybody's panicking and there's blood on the streets tomorrow and the rabbit building at the St. Charles Fairgrounds is being attacked. Things like that could happen, but at least for now, I think it's just a down day.
God forbid the rabbit building. The rest of that, who cares? But the rabbit building must be preserved at all costs. So don't you folks in St. Charles, don't you know the history that is in your midst, sir?
Well, I mean, combined with that, there's a lot of other history, too, in terms of we are the former pickle capital of the world, and we were a stop in the Underground Railroad in the Civil War. So there's a lot to be proud of here in St. Charles.
I forgot about the pickle thing. That's right. That always brings a smile to my face whenever I hear of St. Charles, the great pickle capital of the world. Who wouldn't want that as a claim to fame? Just barrels of brine everywhere you look out there in St. Charles. As we keep on rolling back to the shores of Maine, they're mostly known for flannel. So I guess and also the hellacious hellscape that is the shores of Maine. So I guess you could choose, listeners. What would you rather be known for? Barrels of brine or mountains of flannel? Your choice out there as we go to the Rock Lobster. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what's catching your eye?
You're on today, Mark.
I'm feeling it. You know, it's a big day out here today. And Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what's catching your eye out there in the market, sir?
Yeah, I was just trying to weight the historical significance of St. Charles, like Underground Railroad stop or pickle capital of the world. It was lots of stuff going on with with that. Right now, so I did see like Microsoft, I think, didn't they? I saw sometimes FinTwit provides some useful stuff, and I saw something that Microsoft cloud spending or their R&D or what they think their revenues getting a little downtick. That is, I'm going to call it loosely AI sensitive. So I think that could be part of the Microsoft reason today. I mean, it is quite a behemoth of a stock. So, you have, anytime you say like cloud or AI or anything and you whisper negative things, I think that it sets the algos all aghast, and they just start whacking the crap out of it. So I think that could be part of the deal there for Microsoft. As far as today goes, I for one would be happy when the Fed is out of the economy, because all this seems to be waiting for Jay Powell to say something in Jackson Hole like he did last year, 2 years ago. It felt like the market kind of wanted to fly, and then everybody got nervous again. I think the housing data wasn't too bad. So from a data point of view, we're still in the good data is good, bad data is bad. But it's still kind of the pins and needles thing. It's hard for like VIX to relax, so to speak, when Powell says something and we could rip or drop 100 points instantly. So I think, and that is a symptom of this market since, I don't know, when it was, let's see, like, I kind of want to think 2022, since the Fed, they started raising and all that kind of stuff. So, which I think was the right thing to do, by the way. But when you look at it right now, SPX is down 0.5%. We just rallied 8%. And of course, that's always a vol curve stretcher. And now we have a little bit of a pop. And you have to be realistic. So if they're going to price VIX at 1739, it might have been a little higher today. If we go out to September 20th, so that's roughly where VIX is pricing straddle, and that straddle is $170. And it's not out of hand to think that we could move 100 or 110 points in in a day or 2 days. So I think the market is just well priced based on what they think is going to happen, not necessarily what's happening today. Although I would say on balance, the economic news was good, but Microsoft not spending more money on cloud or not expecting higher revenues is not good. So, if we get any kind of a ceiling on that stuff, then, tech kind of slows down. I mean, I noticed that SPX was almost, I think we were like a tick away, or maybe we touched the all-time highs today for a second. I think we did. It's 56.70. No, close but no cigar. Close but no cigar, SPX. We're still about 0.5% away this morning. But the Q is still, what is that, 2.5% off? No, 5% off the top. So that would be 450. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's where we find ourselves just kind of waiting for news. And when the market's waiting for news, vol generally is bid up, and it's kind of hard to do stuff. So I filled some VIX puts this morning. I filled a couple of VXX strangles because I don't think VIX is going to be anywhere close to 17.5 by the close tomorrow. People will be freaking out like crazy. Will be probably above 20 again in the middle of zone 2, or we'll be heading down to 15, low 14s, fast. So, and you just want to get out of the way when they just smash all this vol. And I think that's kind of where we are. Whereas, again, if you're trading, you're sort of waiting to see it. And I think that's kind of how today's shaping up.
Now, real quick, though, I do have some data that I would like to share that's going to break this market wide open. Are you guys ready for it?
I'm a little nervous, but go for it, sir. All
right. So the data that I have to share. So, I mean, put your buy orders in now, because as soon as I announce this, we're going to actually we're going to hit new all-time highs here within, I'd say, maybe 30 seconds. We actually have a birthday among us today. That is Mr. Mark Longo. So if the Flowmaster and the Rock Lobster would like to join me, you can if you'd like. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm going to sing happy birthday to Mark. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mark. Happy birthday to you.
How did you suss that out? I was trying to disguise it. I was slamming this day as like the worst day of the year. I thought that would make everyone just assume the opposite. But somehow you sussed it out, sir. You detective out there in the hinterlands, you. I'm not sure how you came to that conclusion, but thank you. Thank you for that rousing rendition of the birthday song.
We could start a barbershop quartet. We're that good.
You three, I mean, you guys, sounds like you've been singing together for at least 20 seconds, so it was impressive. You guys out there.
No doubt. Happy birthday, Mark.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a fun run already. I already was surprised with the Metallica concert a few weeks ago, so it's been a fun run already. Hey, so far I'm in the studio. The city isn't burning down this week, so that's not a bad birthday present either. Let's see if we got a few presents lurking here in the markets for us today, shall we, listeners? The answer is, again, kind of depends where you look. If you're looking in VIX, as we always do to kick things off this week, you're going to think it's the mother of all snooze fests out there. Only 269,000 contracts on the tape right now in VIX land, so a whole heck of a lot of nothing. Now, outside of the context of the ADV, which is just a banger, that's 1.25 million. That's kind of absurd volume for the dog days of summer. If we just looked at the calendar and then looked at the volume, we'd say, okay, 270, that's actually pretty decent today. The ADV this time of year is usually probably 450, 5 something this time of year anyway. So 270 would actually be pretty respectable, but that's not the context we're all living in right now. We're looking for bangers out here today, and that is not the case out here in VIXland. The most active contract is 30,000 of the SEP 50s. 5 O's. Interesting strike out there. We got to see really quick. What did those print for? They went up for 19 to 20 cents in that range. Few printing up to 23. 23 cents for the SEP 50s. Wow. Okay. Spy's putting up some numbers today. 6.1 million. The ADV almost 8.4 million out there. The S, also a banger day. 1.9 million. The ADV little under 3.25 million out there right now. Small caps actually looking a little light, 702,000 right now. Now again, on a normal day, that would be really impressive volume when the ADV is around 850, but the ADV is 1.8 million, so 702 ain't gonna cut it today. 1.8 million, the ADV in small caps. And the Qs actually also looking robust out there today. So it's a very mixed bag out there today. The Qs, 2.83 million contracts right now. So that's actually about 0.6% above where it normally is right now. The ADV about 3.9 million. So certainly seems on pace to hit that today. Let's go out to single names. Let's find out what's lurking out there, listeners. Is it a banger day or a quiet day out there in the single name front? The answer is it's kind of mixed there as well. It cost us 231,000 contracts to break into the top 10. That's obviously not the most explosive day we've ever seen, but it's also not 150, 160 like we normally expect this time of year. So I'd call that modestly respectable. How about that to categorize it? That gets us to Palantir number 10, 32.20 off about 35 cents or about 1% today. Again, good for number 10, 231,000 contracts. Number 9, are we just in a world now where Intel's just hanging out in the top 10 every day? Certainly seems like that lately. Intel, number 9, 281,000 contracts. $20.70, off about 70 cents, or a little over 3% today. Again, good for 9, 281,000 contracts. Number 8, the Amazonians coming early today. You know it's earnings season, or maybe just a quiet day. Amazon, number 8, 301,000 contracts. 177.75, off about 235 today, or a little over 1, about 1.3%. Good for the number 8 spot. Number 7, it's our old pal Snowflake. They had earnings, so you know things are popping off out there. In this case, Snowflake, apparently the worm turning on Snowflake. 117.81, off 17.25, or nearly 13%. A Metallica concert really did a number on what remained of my vocal cords, listeners. They have yet to recover. Off 13% nearly today in Snowflake. So, spoiler alert, the market did not like what they had to say. They were about 135 going into the close yesterday. So, yeah, they've really come for this name out here. Let's just look really quickly on the year. On the year now, they're down about $35 or about 23%. And if you go back to they're actually below, looks like their previous all-time low, which was back in June of 2022 of 119.33, and obviously well below their all-time high of close to $400, $392. Take a guess when that was, listeners. Yeah, November of 2021. So yeah, it's been quite the roller coaster ride here for Snowflake, and unfortunately, lately most of it has been to the dark side. This was a hot one for a while, hot IPO, and then like the mighty are falling. At least today. Number 7, 339,000 contracts for Snowflake. Number 6, it's the artist formerly known as Facebook, 379,000, 533.81, off a $1.35. So kind of a rounding error for Meta today. Good for 379,000, and this number 6 spot. Number 5, this name roaring back to life today. This is Peloton, 460, up $1.25, or almost 37%. So is today finally the day? People have been, every earnings, people are like, is this the day? Are they going to announce something, a turnaround, a takeover, something? Wasn't that long ago we had a poll about the 3 puts going into earnings. I think they were trading around 30 cents. So you can get pretty much 10% for those puts. And nobody in our audience wanted to touch them with a 10-foot pole. That's how they were like a weekly put sale too. That just shows the dire outlook for Peloton. And now trading around $4.50, up $1.30, closing on 40% to the upside today. So I know they kind of put out a mixed bag, but obviously it was enough to show that their turnaround is taking a little bit of a root out there. Peloton, $4.50 right now. So 396,000 contracts on the tape for them. I got a feeling we'll be coming back to them in a little bit. Number 4, it's AMD, 153.33, off 444, or nearly 3%. Good for number 4. 489,000 contracts. Here comes the A-Tech strip now. Number 3, it's Apple, 225.58, off about 80 cents. So again, kind of a rounding error day for them as well. 638,000 contracts on the tape for them at the number 3 spot. Number 2, it's Tesla. They're up, they're down, they're up, they're down. Today they're down 216.10, off 720, or a little over 3%. Good for 1.1 million out there in good old Tesla. And the number 1, the big dog, it's NVIDIA, 126.12, off about 240, or closing in on 2%. again, a little bit shy of 3 million contracts. So again, not an explosive day really for anyone out there, unless you're counting some of the oddballs like Snowflake or Peloton that usually aren't on the list. In terms of earnings, we've hit a lot of the big ones this week. We had BJ's, BJ's are today actually, Intuit, everyone's favorite, Tosaw's favorite, Ross Dress for Less. Peloton, of course, already talked about them. Yesterday we had Target, Macy's, the aforementioned Snowflake, and everybody's buddy, Zoom Video Holdings. Let's go there right now. They popped off yesterday after the bell. They went into their announcement 60.25. They're pricing in 8.1%. They delivered nearly 11%. So a little bit of outperformance from a vol perspective. Also outperformance from a stock perspective. The stock rallying $7.50, nearly 13% today, trading around almost $68 right now. So maybe is their long beatdown finally over? Are they starting to recover out there in Zoom land? This actually, today's move now puts them up for the year about $2, a little over 3%. They were languishing pretty much down for the year. They're still off their highs, obviously, but just for the year, let alone all-time highs, obviously. But just intriguing out there in all things Zoom. We talked about Snowflake as well. On 135 even, they were pricing in 10.1%. They delivered 12%, as of their time of this report. They're off 13% now. So a little bit more juice in the offing out there for Snowflake. Look really quickly. We got into it after the bell today. Really quickly, 670.5 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $34 exactly. In the past, they moved 31.25. So someone got the memo out there and into it. Is it worth the extra juice, listeners? I guess we shall find out. And then we got a bunch coming up, including NVIDIA next week, Salesforce next week, and a bunch of other names. You can find these all for yourselves, literally hundreds of other tickers, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab to begin your journey to the dark side. Right now, the season hanging out almost in line with our long-term average. Our long-term average right now is 113%, and we are at 112% for the season. So after starting off just explosive, 135s, 440%, now coming back down to earth, still elevated obviously at 112, but maybe a little bit more reasonable. But you know what's never reasonable? It's the odd block. That's what makes it fun.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's get weird. Let's get wild. Let's get out to see what the Flowmaster, what he was looking at today. And I said we're going to come back to this one. It is Peloton, listeners. You know the deal, PTON. We just talked about it. Up 36% today. On the year, it's still a bit of a dumpster fire, off about $2.50 or about 35%. So obviously today's move is helping that. Otherwise, it was looking far worse. Just about a week ago, it was hanging out pretty much at its 52-week low of around 270. Let's go all-time low and see. What is the all-time low? I think that might have been the all-time low as well, around 270, yeah. So from about 270 to 460 in about a week and change, 2 weeks. Not a bad do, as they say. Mr. Flowmaster, sir. Looks like you caught somebody with their hand in the cookie jar printing some money out here. What'd you find out here in Peloton?
Well, wait, first I want to back up a little bit to those VIX SEP 50 calls you mentioned, just because I was digging around a little bit as you're talking about it. That, I believe, is a closing seller customer. And it actually looks to me like they might open it up in April. So, I had heard some stories about people that were long VIX calls and then, really scrambled to get out of them and monetize, that hedge, if it was a portfolio hedge on Monday or even on Friday. We saw some of it. This actually looks like maybe somebody held on too long and they just want to get it off their books. But I think it's a closing seller. They paid 40 something cents for them a month ago, and they're dumping them out. I mean, they're losing half, but might have given them some real cushion on when things did get very ugly to not bail out of any of their longs. So that was on those VIX calls. So yeah, the one of the trades I noticed. So Peloton, I owned that stock kind of from the tail end of COVID down about 20 handles because I guess I remember it had been in the 60s. Then it was in the 20s. I think I bought some in the 20s after they had a bad earnings number, and it just continued to head towards zero. So I'm a little bitter on the whole name. But what's kind of interesting today, it is one of the biggest movers, up about 35%. And when I looked at some of the historical flow just from last week, the September 3/2, 4/2 vertical call spread jumped out at me in terms of some big trades, but also the largest open interest growth on both of those strikes. So it looks to me like about 30,000 of those SEP 3/2, 4/2 spreads were bought a little bit last week, and then more this week for around 24 cents. So now those are about 15 cents in the money. They do have another few weeks, so they're not going to be trading at the full dollar yet, but that looks like a pretty big winner.
Yeah, it's a pretty good do, as the kids say. And yeah, their upside strike, not terrible either, at least for right now. I mean, slightly in the money. So I guess if this rally continues, they might regret it a little bit. But still, how angry are you going to be with this winner? And also in the past, you kind of had to sell something in Peloton just to keep the lights on out there, as the Flowmaster said. If you've been long Peloton for a while, you kind of been choking on it. Mr. Rock Lobster, I mean, I'll see if I can go dig up that poll we did. It wasn't that long ago when everyone in our audience, and I think you yourself as well, were all skittish. Peloton was around $3, and everyone and their mother did not want to touch those 3 puts, selling them with a 10-foot pole, even though they're only a few days to go, going through earnings. That shows you the outlook. Is this it? Has the worm turned? And have you noticed any of this flow out here in Peloton, sir?
We looked at this put sell, and we're like, we didn't even want to sell them. As I recall, there was like a big money. There was a line in the sand put, but it looks like they're kind of doing the Carvana, where they're trying to right the corporate ship, as far as I can tell. So, I mean, the market cap is half the revenue, so it's not like it is possible to fix it. It is a popular brand, but. You look at these things and you're like, well, I mean, it could easily resurrect. I'm not, when these things are like kind of just dying on the bottom, I don't play. I guess Portillo's is because it's so tasty. But in general, I kind of wait till they sort of bounce out, have a good earnings or something like that, or kind of start to right the ship somewhat. And it just looks like they got a shot to kind of straighten their act out a little bit. So, I mean, I guess it has possibilities. Yeah, but as I recall, there was some line in the sand put sellers, and we had no interest in that at all. I mean, even looking now, like it looks like somebody's buying the Jan 2015s for like 10 cents. So. I mean, Henry's spread that he bought, that's a massive win, but it's not, maybe they're taking their money and buying the 15 calls for a dime, which, I mean, anything could happen, right? But just for the company to get back to, trading 1x revenue, it could double in price. So, turnarounds have happened before. I think we've seen Carvana, this year, 3M. There's a bunch of stocks that kind of were languishing hard, and then, all of a sudden, whatever corporate turnaround they do actually starts to work. So it's always possible. I just don't want to keep, I don't want to watch it go from 4 to 3 to 2, and then so generally I try to avoid it if possible.
Carvana is a ridiculous story. We were just joking about it not that long ago on Oddities that it was banned in Illinois. The stock was hanging out around $2, and now it's just completely the opposite end of the spectrum. Speaking of ridiculous names, let's just look really quick. I was looking here for some other Peloton flow, because we have talked about this once or twice in the past, and the last time we chatted about it on this show was on May 6th. So a little ways ago, he talked about some folks really feeling their oats this was kind of the last time folks were starting to get a little jazzed about Peloton. The stock was around $3.50, and folks were really going to town on the July 4 calls. This was on May 6th, listeners, so they had some time. But still, this was pricey. This was 45 cents they were paying for these when the stock was sub 350, actually. So well over 10% of the value of the stock just for these calls. We've talked about 5,214 going up for 45 cents. A total of 21,000 went up on the day. So there was some enthusiasm, even though some of that could have been obviously back and forth closing. The stock, guess where it went out, listeners? $3.59 on expiration. So no joy there. And there were still 32,000 of these calls open at expiration. So it seemed like a lot of hopes and dreams went to die. If this 5,200 lot was still open, which seems like it was, paper dropped around 235 grand on that trade. So not the first time paper and call paper in particular has gone to die in Peloton, but maybe this time is the charm. Maybe this is the 80th time, as opposed to the third time. The 80th time is the charm out there. Interesting stuff. Let's keep rolling out to some other names that are catching the eye of the Flowmaster. It's also caught our eye out there today. This is Bill Holdings, Inc., ticker symbol Bill. So your favorite buddy Bill, he has his own company now, all about him. Trading 51.21, off about 25 cents, or about 0.5% today. On the year, listeners, man, it has been a Peloton-esque bloodbath out here in Bill Holdings this year. It's trading 51.25. It's down $57.50 this year, or off about 53%. So clearly no one wants their invoice to go payment service here in Bill Holdings. My goodness. But that's not stopping some folks, it seems like, from piling into some upside. Mr. Flowmaster, what caught your eye out here, sir?
So yeah, I don't think I've seen this name, or at least I don't remember looking at it. But this is, and it's, I mean, when you and I both notice things independently, that means something's going on. It has earnings today, and there's a lot of action in these calls that expire tomorrow, right? So this is a very specific directional trade. Basically just around 10:15 this morning, when stock was kind of in the 5160 range, 5170, we saw a couple big sweeps. August 23rd, the tomorrow contracts, 64 strike calls, about 6,000 of them bought for 49 to 51 cents in a couple pretty aggressive sweeps, touching about 16 markets. And then a little bit later, there were a couple of put buyers. Stock didn't react very much, which might mean that occasionally there's kind of some anticipation or information leakage where maybe the hedging happens. But also, the market kind of turned around and headed lower since then. So I think this one might be worth a little position, maybe in the stock instead of in the options, just because these options are either going to be worthless or possibly, kind of a multi-bagger if stock really does gap up. But I haven't seen the name before, but to see a pretty good sized position, the volume, this is about 10 times the average daily volume in the name. So let me just see what the earnings on it usually moves around 15%. We're pricing in 14%. So that's a $7 move on a $50 stock. So they're kind of, seems like they're targeting a larger than expected move, and it's pretty clearly to the upside and based on what they bought.
Yeah, a lot of upside flow out here today. We spotted a couple. You mentioned all the 1 day to go calls that came across our radar as well, including 3,638 of the 64 listeners. I remember I said the stock right now, 51.18. These 64 calls expiring tomorrow for 50 cents, 50 cents. This is they were offered at 40. They paid 50. So they're going through by the way, this is opening paper. This is not someone who sold them for a boatload of dollars and is now happy to pay whatever to close them because they're sitting on money. This is opening paper with 1 day to go on the 64 strike, nearly 13 handles out of the money. Yeah, I mean, 13 handles overnight. I think we saw another 2,000 lot going up for 50 cents again. Total of 7,000 of these things traded today. Again, this is all opening paper. Mr. Rock Lobster, 1 day to go, 13 handles out of the money, 50 cents. I got a feeling you're going to say sold to you, sir. What do you think?
I mean, this has to be in the case of I must know something that nobody else knows. They have to have some sort of secret handshake club where these calls are going to pay. I was just looking at the vol, the one-day vol is 330%. But Henry's right. Like, there's this one call strike is almost the OI in the whole August 23 strip prior to today. So some kind of magic has to come forth. Kind of like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But it could happen. Like stranger things have happened. But the stock was just $47. Let's see here. I mean, it was trading 85 in a year, in December, basically. And it's been on a long slow slide since then. So, I mean, some miracle could happen for sure, but man, it's going to take a big one. Maybe they say AI in your bill pay. You have AI pay your bills and you don't have to make money anymore. Maybe that'll do it.
I don't know if even those two magic letters will do it, sir. That's usually, you get around 20% pop. That'll get you close, I guess, but I don't know. 64 handle? This is, and people are actively trading these for 50 cents? I don't know, listeners. This is, I think the technical term is bonkers. Crazy town. All of those would apply. I guess if you're looking for a decent one-day overwrite and you're willing to ride some stock or something else, then I guess you could do worse than selling those 64 as long as you got something else against it in your back pocket in case they do come home to roost. But man, that is, I think, again, the technical term is crazy town. As we keep on rolling, it's Thursday. Let's get to a little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody. Let's get down to it on the old Mail Block. Lots of fun popping off out there this week. We actually had a fun kind of flash poll that went live on Monday, pretty much based on what we were talking about on the Monday show, also on the Friday Vol Views. We were talking about two seemingly diametrically opposed trades out there in VIX land. First, we talked about last week, over 100,000 of the OC18 puts going up in VIX throughout the week for a variety of prices, a lot of them north of $2, around $2.15 or so. And then we also saw on the Monday show, 64,000 of the OC20s also going up for about $1.75. So we thought, gun to your head, you got to buy one of these, and you got to hold them. Which way are you going? And looks like you folks liking yourself some upside. 60.7% of you chose the VIX OC20 calls for around $1.76, and 39.3% going for the puts for $2.15 out there. Fast forward to what's going on right now, our question of the week. And we asked you quite simply, it is convention time here in Chicago. So far, so good. I mean, there was kind of one dust up, it seemed like a night or two ago, and that was unfortunately like almost right across the street here from the studio. But outside of that, it's never good when you look out the studio window and you see, about 100 police on bikes, about 10 paddy wagons, armed boats, all coming your way. Things aren't good. But, outside of that dust up, doesn't really seem, at least fingers crossed, have been too terrible so far. It seems like they came loaded for bear this time, and they were not messing around. So far, so good on the unrest front. But we asked you, we care about the markets here. We asked you, hey, do you think this convention is going to have any material impact on vol or the markets this week? I think we're mostly seeing the answer, but nonetheless, we put it out to you folks. Yes, it's going to move VIX and SPX, or no, it's just a dog and pony show. Well, let's go out to Uncle Mike, the person who ratted me out to the masses out there. Well, let's go out to him first. First off, are you surprised that our audience wants to buy the VIX OC20 calls over the OC18 puts right now? And then B, what do you think about our poll here? Is the convention going to move markets, yay or nay?
Not surprised in terms of the audience wanting to buy the 20 calls over the 18 puts. Apparently they feel that vol's going to go higher. In terms of the markets being affected by the DNC, I don't know if it could or not. I think it could, but I don't think it will. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of things that can happen during the convention that should move markets. Like, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think Kamala Harris just agreed with some plan to raise the capital gains tax rate to like 40% or something along those lines. And I doubt, let's say that is what she said. I can't confirm that that's what she said, but let's say that that's what she said. Well, that's going to have to get a lot more backing from other people to actually happen, even if she is elected. So I would tend to lean over this to the side of, I don't think it will, but it could.
Which way do you think our audience is going?
I think they don't think it's going to move it, I think.
Interesting. Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you. Are you surprised that our audience preferred some VIX OCT 20s over the 18 puts right now by a pretty substantial majority? And then B, what do you think we're going to get anything out of this convention? And what do you think our audience is voting for?
I mean, I don't know what we got out of the convention. So as of right now, everybody's kind of throwing their hands out. I mean, it's all policy that was already proposed like in the last 4 years. So I don't see anything new. And we still ended up at 5,600. So, so I don't think it's going to move markets. I think everybody's waiting for Powell. So I would say I was surprised they picked the upside. I would fade the convention, and that's kind of my take on that. But I didn't see anything out of it I wasn't surprised by anything. Again, you could always hope that there'd be some great ideas that pop out, but I didn't really see any.
I think once we lost the notion, I should say, of an open convention where it might be an actual battle for the nomination, I think all hope of any sort of vol or really market impact from the convention kind of went by the wayside. Mr. Flowmaster, the last word is yours. A, are you surprised that our audience right now preferring some VIX upside to some VIX downside, at least through October? And then B, what are your thoughts on the convention impact? What do you think our audience is going to vote for?
Well, I mean, I got to say the kind of the VIX calls have that, well, all calls have that kind of infinite potential gain, at least in theory. So it doesn't surprise me that they went for that. When I was in Quebec last week, there was a political scientist speaking, and there were a lot of questions about kind of what to expect, for the third quarter or the fourth quarter. And one thing he said people should not underestimate is the potential for a 2-month kind of court battle after the election, which I think is really pretty interesting. And we keep talking about the VIX, the October VIX futures trading higher, and there's a little bump there, and some days it's higher than other days. But I think I'm trying to look for kind of what trades might make sense if vol gets elevated around November and stays elevated certainly into January.
Let's see what our audience is up to. And you're a pretty savvy bunch. You were on the right tip from the beginning. 80.5% right now saying no, it's just a dog and pony show. Obviously, one more night, so anything could happen. Maybe she'll get out there and say, you know what, I reject this nomination. And then it'll all pop off. 19.5% saying yes, it will move the market in VIX. So far, we have not seen that as we keep on rolling into our final segment and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, as our chat has been hijacked by Uncle Mike's well wishes. You see the nice things he does, listeners. He just hijacks everything with his niceness. We've got Queens wishing me a happy birthday. Option God, happy birthday, Mark. Frank, happy birthday. Nichols, happy. Everyone's there chiming in. Thank you very much for all of your way. I'm having a good run so far. I can't complain. Can't complain in life, certainly, but also on the birthday front. Not a bad run out there as well as we go around the horn. Let's see if everyone else is going to do any complaining, or maybe they're excited. Obviously, we got Jackson Hole on the docket. Mr. Flowmaster, we'll start with you, sir. Jackson Hole, obviously on the radar. Anything else you're keeping an eye on until your appearance next week?
Well, I'll tell you, we just started publishing a VIX TLT, which I'm able to find on some platforms and not on others. It is on Yahoo Finance, though, which everybody can get to. So I'm going to be kind of trying to do a little bit of monitoring. I've always found the TLT, when I kind of try to look at macro charts, I have SPX up or the S&P futures and VIX and VVIX and TLT and gold and a few other things. But so the VIX TLT is one thing I'm going to be playing around with. I guess just watching the conventions finish up and into Jackson Hole for sure.
Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until on the Monday episode?
Well, first thing I'm going to do is check out this VIX TLT. It sounds kind of interesting. The other things that I'm going to be watching, we just didn't quite make the new all-time highs in the S&P. We came close, but we did not make them. Watching just to see what we can do towards the all-time highs, and then as stated earlier, watching bonds, because I think they're going to have some movement coming up over the course of the next few weeks, one way or another.
And Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, the last word to you. What are you keeping an eye on out there until the Monday show?
Let's see. Since I'm going to be gone tomorrow, driving my kids to college with all our stuff, little caravan we got. If there's a gypsy circus kind of going to Massachusetts, it's me. So of course, when I'm gone, tomorrow will be mayhem. I don't know. It is historically what it is. I'm going to try to get back for the last hour of the day. Although I have my phone to just put in, I got a lot of closing orders set up. But I find it odd right now. I thought I was kind of fading this earlier, but the bid for vol seems like is super persistent. And I thought, okay, what's Jay Powell going to say? Like, okay, we're in a recession. We're worried. I thought I was going to dump all my long VIX today, but I have to say, I'm going to hold it one more day. I don't mind taking a little less tomorrow. No big deal. But I did get rid of some, and I don't know. I think this is. It does feel like it's overbid, but again, it's the summertime. People are on vacation, all that kind of stuff. So I would be frosty tomorrow. It's a little. The bid for volatility is surprising me today, I have to say. So when I'm surprised, that's generally I didn't see something. I didn't see something coming. And so that's what I'll say. I think the Powell speech, it appears anyway like it'll be a little bit more than we were thinking at the beginning of the week.
Fools rush in where the Rock Lobster is surprised. And if they want to get your good goodies, Mr. Rock Lobster, where should they go? What should they do?
Oh, you can do my weekly profit cycles, kicking butt, if you want to learn how to finance SPY puts and make money doing it. Optionpit.com, and also our new SVIX program, which is hedged right now. Come on over to optionpit.com, and you heard this show 10% off. There you go.
There you go. Check them out. Optionpit.com. Should put out really quickly end of the show here. Sell off kind of exacerbating a little bit as we're rolling out here. S&P off 1%, NASDAQ off 1.5%, Dow off 0.75%, and VIX cash hanging out at about a 17.5, 1760. So seems like things steepening up a little bit out there to the downside, and vol certainly steepening up to the upside. Mr. Flowmaster, same question for you. Where should folks go if they want more of your good Cboe goodies?
Just head over to Cboe.com/RMA, where we have all of our platforms and data offerings, and we'll be happy to set up a trial.
There you go, Cboe.com/RMA. Check out that new VIX TLT. Interesting out there, listeners. And Mr. Uncle Mike, the last word is yours, sir. The tattler of the group. Where should folks go if they want more Uncle Mike goodness and well wishes?
stcharleswealth.com if you'd like to have a conversation with me and are looking for a financial advisor. And if you want to see more of my content, follow me on Twitter at Mike Tosaw, Tosaw.
There you go, listeners. At Mike Tosaw, the place to go for more Uncle Mike goodness. That's going to do it for us on the network today. But don't worry, not done, not by a long shot. I'll be back in a little bit to hold court on all things futures options on TWIFO with our pal, Miss Carly Garner. Should be a fun one, a lot popping off out there in the world of futures options. Then back again tomorrow, of course, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, to hold court on all things vol on Volatility Views. And then after that, one final time, sounds like Sans Rock Lobster. Once again, he's putting my vocal cords to the test, listeners, for a whole bunch of fun on Options Oddities. The last few weeks have been bangers on Options Oddities. Will we have more bangers to discuss this week? I guess we'll find out. The place to go to get access to that, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. You folks also got a fun little DNC special edition of the Pro Q&A this week. So all sorts of fun over there, plus nearly 400 other episodes waiting for you the second we hit that button, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. The place to go. Then we're back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.